Hello, and welcome to the NuWave and HPE presentation on the LightWave solutions and the best practices that must be considered when implementing secure REST services. My name is Casey Krasner, the Director of Revenue here at NuWave, and I am joined by Gustavo Cavazos, one of our professional service team members. Today, I will be providing an overview of the LightWave solutions, and Gus will be going into a deep dive on the best practices that one must consider when implementing our solutions. We will also be joined by Gustavo Martinez, the head of core platform engineering at RedLink. Gustavo has been working on the NonStop for over 20 years and is the one driving the use of the LightWave solutions at RedLink. Our story at RedLink has been continuing to grow, and the company is continuing to find new ways to utilize our solutions in their environment. We are honored to have Gustavo share some of that story here today. We at NuWave are extremely excited to enter this partnership with HPE to bring the NonStop customers the LightWave solutions. For you as a customer, this now means that you can purchase the LightWave solutions directly from your HPE sales representative. NuWave has been in business since 1999, and we are the leader in NonStop middleware and web service integrations. We pride ourselves on the quality and responsiveness of our support, and customers can now receive the same exceptional support directly through HPE. In 2019, we made the decision to go completely virtual, allowing our employees to work from home 5 days a week. This cuts back on energy use, pollution from commuting back and forth, and reduces the single-use plastic consumption. We donate a portion of our proceeds to Ocean Conservancy, which is a nonprofit organization that champions science-based solutions to tackle the largest ocean conservancy challenges that we face today. Today's businesses run on software and information that is on different systems, in different applications, and in many different programming languages. Businesses need to offer this valuable data and computing capabilities securely to countless contributors. The challenge is, how do we use this information to provide added value to our business in a way that does not put our business at risk? We do this through the use of REST services and middleware. REST services are an architectural style for providing standards between computer systems internally or over the web. These make it easier for systems to communicate with each other. REST services have become the standard for information exchange between disparate platforms and applications in most enterprises. In the NonStop space, REST services are being used more and more to allow NonStop applications to communicate with other enterprise applications and integrate with solutions outside of the enterprise. Middleware is a software that enables one or more kinds of communication or connectivity between two or more applications or application components in a distributed network. Middleware helps developers develop applications more effectively. It acts like the connecting tissue between data, applications, and users. For the NonStop, middleware can make it cost-effective to develop and run applications at scale. Many of these middleware endpoint services are accessed through RESTful APIs, which are a set of tools, definitions, and protocols that allow applications to communicate with one another. RESTful APIs make it possible to connect completely different products and services through a common layer. APIs also provide an abstraction layer that enables simple execution of complex interactions without putting the business at risk. Today, we will be covering both LightWave Server and LightWave Client, and how these solutions can help you achieve a secure REST service architecture. Both LightWave solutions are middleware that run entirely on the HPE NonStop server in Guardian and support REST web services. LightWave Server is server-side middleware that allows you to expose NonStop applications as REST services. LightWave Client is middleware that allows you to access REST services from your NonStop. Throughout this presentation, you will see that when REST is available, LightWave offers a fast path to deployment, easy integration with customers, suppliers, and mobile workers. Let's take a look at LightWave Server. LightWave Server allows you to securely expose your HPE NonStop hosted applications as industry standard REST services. This allows you to integrate NonStop into your business SOA or API strategy with minimum investment and educational overhead. These services can be accessed from REST clients running on virtually any computing platform. LightWave Server does this while maintaining the security, reliability, and scalability of the NonStop HPE servers and applications. LightWave Server allows for businesses to respond faster to changing business demands by providing a REST web API to your application with very little effort. It opens the possibilities to many new types of client applications. These REST APIs will allow your NonStop application to be reached by third-party applications that support REST. Those third parties may be other groups within your enterprise, customers, or other business partners outside of your organization. And since LightWave Server works with your existing server, you don't have to incur the time, cost, and risk involved with modifying and retesting your existing applications. The major benefit to LightWave Server is it allows you to leverage existing NonStop applications and its data without changing the application itself. Taking a look at LightWave Server in an HPE environment would look something like this: server-side middleware that enables the NonStop as a server, exposing NonStop applications as services. These services can be accessed from REST clients running on virtually any computing platform, such as mobile devices, web servers, IoT devices, PCs, or servers with any OS. This allows customers and business partners to request information from a NonStop or perform an action, such as make a payment. LightWave Server has many potential uses, including making your NonStop services available through API Gateway. It also allows you to access NonStop applications from mobile devices or IoT devices like an Amazon Echo. It can integrate your payment engines like Base24, Connex, Tango, or even your homegrown solutions. And it can connect your NonStop applications to software as a service solutions such as Salesforce, ServiceNow, or any other offering that you can think of. Let's take a look at a few use cases for LightWave Server. LightWave Server integrating with Base24. LightWave Server works with Base24 much as the same as it would with any NonStop application. Base24 uses XPNet for all communications, and LightWave Server communicates with Base24 via XPNet satellite processes. Connecting to a CRM or a software as a service. A major distribution company uses LightWave Server to integrate their NonStop application with Salesforce. The company's customer service reps use Salesforce to log their customer issues. When the issue is logged in the customer service system, Salesforce sends the request-based query through LightWave Server to the company's NonStop application to update the application. Accessing NonStop data from a tablet is no problem with LightWave Server. We have a healthcare company that is using our software to make patient records available to doctors and nurses on their tablets. LightWave Server sits in front of the Pathway application and creates REST-based web services of Pathway transactions. A simple REST request from the doctor's iPad allows access to the Pathway application, which retrieves and provides patient information back to the doctor. If you have any questions regarding LightWave Server, please send those now in the chat, or at the end, I'll provide additional information for you to submit your questions. Now let's take a look at LightWave Client. LightWave Client provides the ability to securely access REST services from your HPE NonStop. As SOA or APIs become widely adopted with NonStop customers and users, the necessity to integrate mission-critical applications with the larger enterprise has become more prevalent. LightWave Client provides HPE NonStop applications with the ability to act as REST clients and securely access REST web services anywhere on any platform or operating system. LightWave Client provides the NonStop access to a vast world of REST services to modernize its applications, enabling the NonStop as a client to enhance NonStop applications through REST service integrations, and allowing you to leverage business services on enterprise or global networks. The major benefit of client-side middleware or LightWave Client is to enhance the NonStop applications by integrating external REST services and allowing us to leverage existing REST services within your enterprise over the internet. Taking a look at LightWave Client in an HPE environment would look something like this. Client-side middleware enabling the NonStop as a client. This would enhance your NonStop applications by accessing public web services or private services from business partners or within your own enterprise. This allows customers and business partners to leverage the HPE NonStop data with added value, such as sending NonStop data to another business unit for business intelligence. The potential uses for LightWave Client are almost endless. It can allow you to access public web services such as Google Geocode API, Avalara for tax calculations, Decisive for fleet management, or CyberSource payments for payment processing. These are just a few examples of the powerful tools and services that LightWave Client can access. LightWave Client can also allow you to leverage cloud services such as Microsoft Azure, Amazon AWS, or Google Cloud. And it can connect your organization's API gateway to take advantage of services within your own enterprise. Let's take a look at a few LightWave Client use cases. Outsourcing HR to the cloud with LightWave Client. Ultimate Software is a provider of private REST-based web services, and in this case, they are providing a range of human resource solutions. When HR data is required, the NonStop application sends a request containing a date range. It does this through LightWave Client, who then invokes the relevant REST service to retrieve the data from Ultimate. The data is returned back to the application when LightWave Client receives it from the Ultimate service. LightWave Client connects NonStop to a financial service. Raymond James is using LightWave Client to connect to FIS Global Services. Raymond James has the security infrastructure in place, including TLS, network isolation, access control, and they are authenticating to FIS REST services using Auth. Raymond James is using LightWave Client to access FIS Smart Loan, which is a real-time inventory management, deal management system, which is part of the LoanNet solution suite. Smart Loan is a modular application that automates securities lending and borrowing, collateral management, short sale authorizations, real-time P&L, and other related functions. The Smart Loan short sale interface provides a real-time CPU to CPU interface, which allows users to provide short sale inquiry requests between their computing systems and the Smart Loan system. This web API request is modeled on the REST architecture for the request and the response. Using LightWave Client, Raymond James was able to establish the connection between the short sale REST interface easily and develop its application extremely quickly. LightWave Client also allows you to access services to calculate your sales tax. In this case, it's Avalara, which is a tax calculation service that allows customers to offload their processing and the associated detailed knowledge required to Avalara. Our customer uses LightWave Client to send sales transactions to Avalara as a REST request. Avalara then calculates the applicable sales tax and returns that back to the NonStop via LightWave Client. LightWave Client returns the information to the NonStop application, which is able to include the sales tax as part of the real-time transaction. At this point, if you have any questions regarding LightWave Client, please submit those in the chat and we'd be glad to answer them. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Gustavo, who's going to discuss the balancing act between access and security that must be considered when implementing secure REST services.
Thank you, Casey. Exposing all this information is a balancing act between access and security. In our NonStop environment, security is critical. Now that we know how we can use LightWave solutions to access REST services, we're going to take some time to discuss some security best practices needed to help protect your sensitive data and applications, while still making them easily accessible to your internal and external business partners. When implementing a secure REST service strategy, one must consider the following items as part of your best practice for security. We will briefly talk about each item to help those interested in the deployment of secure REST services. These items are network isolation, protection of sensitive data in transit and at rest, authentication, authorization, access control, and auditing. Not all of these security items will be required in every instance, but all should be considered and evaluated. Specific organizations may have additional security requirements that should be discussed with your security teams. Secure services help provide scalability, maintainability, and a single point of entry to NonStop platforms. Network isolation. Network isolation typically involves using an HTTP proxy or similar to create a firewall. In most environments, the NonStop will already be protected by a firewall. However, consideration will need to be given to these new REST services and their impact on those firewalls. Usually, more than one network device has to be updated to allow for new ingress-egress rules. Do new service ports need to be open? Should additional examination of the REST service payload be considered? Will new network segments be allocated, or will they be sharing any point-to-point, host-to-host network connections? These issues should be discussed with the networking team. This next slide shows typical network isolation setup. We have different firewalls, different IP processes attached to different service providers. LightWave solutions help provide this type of single point of entry into the HPE NonStops. Protection of sensitive data. In most cases, new NonStop REST services will likely be carrying some sort of sensitive data, be it cardholder data, healthcare information, or any other type of personally identifiable information. This data will now be carried over an HTTP connection and could potentially be picked up by a user with access to a network trace facility, either inside the enterprise or even externally. This data needs to be protected using TLS and HTTPS. TLS 1.2 is now required by the Payments Council industry, with strong encouragement from the PCI Security Council to move to TLS 1.3. TLS 1.3 should now be under consideration for any new REST implementation and is now supported by both LightWave products. This slide shows an example of obfuscation of sensitive data. Sensitive data should also be considered when it is written to disk. PCI DSS requirements 3.4 requires that any PAN data be rendered unreadable when stored on disk. LightWave solutions allow sensitive data to be protected and masked when written to diagnostic memory, to diagnostic and HTTP logs, and even in internal memory. Authentication. At its simplest, the process of authentication is validating that a user is who they say they are. In the case of REST services, Authentication is the first step in determining whether access should be allowed to a particular service. Authentication can be achieved in a variety of ways, including username and password, and there are a wide variety of newer OAuth-based standards in use. LightWave solutions support HTTP digest authentications to allow username and password to be safely carried and used for authentication. This allows NonStop applications to connect to a wide variety of external REST services. LightWave Client allows for custom signatures to allow NonStop applications to connect to external REST services. This slide and the next one show samples of authentication from LightWave server and client. This one shows digest authentication for server. Here we see LightWave client using custom authentication to connect to Amazon Web Services. Authorization. Once a user is authenticated, the next important step is to determine whether the received request should be allowed to access a specified service they're trying to invoke. In the case of REST services, the resource they're accessing is the API or the service. The REST service middleware solution needs to be able to link the authenticated user to the service being accessed to determine if access is granted or denied. LightWave products access control list allow authorization based on a number of different criteria, including client IP address, to ensure that only authorized access is permitted. Access control. The previous step outlined will not be of much use if the management or administrative environment used by the REST service middleware is not itself secure. Without adequate access control in place, rogue users could reconfigure the solution, allowing unauthorized access to the services. The solution needs to provide access control to ensure that only authorized users are allowed access to the administrative environment. LightWave solutions allow specific users to be configured with the correct access to the management console, ensuring that unauthorized users are not giving access to these sensitive functions. Auditing. Auditing provides a historical record of what actions were performed within the REST service environment and by whom. This record is important to ensure compliance with security policies, but it can also be used proactively by security incident event management solutions like HPE ArcSight and RSA Security Analytics. These solutions piece together in security information from across the enterprise to determine if a security incident might be occurring. Comprehensive auditing support is currently being added to LightWave solutions, allowing auditing to both the REST services operations being invoked and also the administrative functions being performed through the console. Current LightWave solution implements message logging, which helps provide auditing across the enterprise. And now I'll return back the presentation to Casey. Thank you, Casey.
Thanks, Gus. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Gustavo Martinez from RedLink. He's going to share how they have been using the LightWave solutions.
Thank you, Casey and Gus, and thanks everyone for being watching this presentation. My name is Gustavo Martinez. I'm going to be presenting the experience of RedLink with the NuWave product. and it's going to be a continuation from the latest presentation with NuWave products. This is the agenda for today. I'm going to talk about RedLink background just briefly, and also how we are using LightWave products. At the end, I will explain some future plans. Just briefly, who is RedLink? What do we do? RedLink is a transactional switch. It was founded in 1988, and since the very beginning we are using NonStop and Base24. Today we have two flavors of that for different kind of business: Base24 Classic and Base24 EBS. We work with both public and private banks. We have more than 60 banks connected to our network. We are driving more than 10,000 ATMs, and at peak days we have more than 45 million transactions on our TLF, transaction log file of ACI. Regarding myself, I can say that I have more than 23 years of experience on the platform, that I hold a computer science degree, that I've been working for over 19 years here at RedLink, playing different roles, like being in charge of the innovation lab, and today I'm the head of the NonStop engineering area. But I wanted to mention that also I very interested in, the IT world, programming world in general. You can reach me on that email if you want additional information or you have some question regarding this presentation and some other issues. This is how we started to use the products, mainly testing them since 2017. We have started to use a product, initially making several proof of concept before jumping to production. Here you can see on the left the Alexa implementation. Alexa is an AI device where you can talk with it, interact with it by voice, and we use that as an excuse to trigger transactions to Base24 using a LightWave server. On your right, you have another POC where we were using an ATN for accessing some information on a scribe file on the NonStop side, and we wanted to replace, just for testing purposes by then, our NonStop SOAP implementation, but in this case using LightWave REST for exposing exactly the same API, but instead of SOAP using REST, and we were able to do it without any problem in a short period of time, which was very good. And another one was how to interact from Base24 to consume web services, in this case using LightWave client. This, as I said before in my latest TVC, was the POC that we needed to determine which was going to be our next production implementation. Well, we have been improving this architecture. I have talked at the latest TVC 2020 in a more detailed way, but basically we have developed a SATW process that interface with LightWave client in order to access web service providers that are hosted outside of the NonStop platform. We were able to make it no wait now, so the SATW can process messages in a no wait manner from XPNet and from Pathway at the same time. So there's no any blocked time here awaiting for an answer from this web service, for example. And we have also been concentrated on migrating many more web services using our old approach to this new approach using, well, pathway and LightWave client. This again is a robust, fault tolerant, and the most important, I think, is an scalable solution. Coming soon. Now I'm going to explain you some coming soon things that we are working during this year that sooner or later they will become a production implementation. Using the same architecture, we talking with NuWave, we realized they told us that NuWave, the LightWave client, is able to consume SOAP web services if those web services are using the version 1.0 or 1.1. So we have several of those situations deployed on the open system platform. So again, we are using the same architecture for consuming those web services without any change on our previous or original architecture using LightWave client. An example of this is email services. There are some web services outside of the NonStop that expose an SOAP API that allow us to send emails to the customer. So from an ATM, we can trigger, for example, an email, a ticket, an electronic ticket, for example, using this architecture. Another very important implementation, in this case using a LightWave server, is try to use a new feature of LightWave server that is called file blobs, binary large objects. And the idea basically is to replace an file transfer protocol implementation using this approach. How it works, basically the information is sent using a post here. LightWave server receives that binary information and then store that in a blob file, right, in an unstructured file. This is the name, for example, VL001, which is provided when this is done to a pathway server, a business server, right, that process that information and create, in this case, two outputs, this one and this one. And in a later time, the customer that is awaiting for that information request that processed information. So LightWave server send that message to the server, and then he can provide the result using this path, right? After that situation, we can trigger, for example, it's up to us what we can do here. We can, after that situation happens, we can trigger a warm boot to XPNet for example, allow a satellite process to access this information. All of this solution replace a much more complex and less performant architecture that we have been using for many years, where the idea was transfer information using FTP and then process this information using transient processes. So from the performance point of view, there was a lot of, consumptions because of those transient processes, and we didn't have the whole path traceable. In this case, in this situation, we can use Measure, we can use EMS, we can use all of the tools that we have on the NonStop, and also we use an REST APIs, which is much more easy to be integrated with outside of the NonStop solutions. In the same sense, another coming soon implementation using LightWave server that is in the certification phase today is how to access and modify an inscribe file that is here using a LightWave server. The idea is to inject information from our fraud system using a REST API, contact LightWave server, and since this access a pathway server, our business servers, that is going to update this file to allow at a later time or almost in an immediate time block later transaction. So the idea of the fraud system is again update this information in order to block fraudulent transactions. In the past, we were using, as previously I have explained, FTP, and then trigger a launch or a transient process for updating this file. And today we are working in a new more modern and innovative solution using this approach. With LightWave server, you have the ability to, for example, implement user measure counters, so you can, for example, determine how many of these requests are incoming. You can send information to external CM, SIEM servers, for example, for security reasons. You can, do many other things that are very important for us. So the solution was an improvement of what we have been doing for many years. Also, the FTP interface that we have on the fraud system was discarded, or is going to be discarded thanks to this, and it's going to be implemented using much simpler and well known for the whole NonStop, for the whole programmers community. We have many other plans for the future. We are going to continue using NuWave, LightWave product, trying to make the solution as simple as we can when appropriate. We are, for example, going to expose some information that we are starting to store on in SQLMX using this alternative. Again, when, for example, when you need scalability, it's a good alternative to use this kind of services as a middleware to access information that is also going to be held or stored on the NonStop, like SQLMX. We're also going to continue implementing different kind of web services, giving new solutions to our customer that require more and more during these times API for accessing different kind of information in an immediate way. So we are going to focus on try to integrate more the NonStop using these new and modern interfaces. Thank you so much for attending to this presentation. Feel free to contact me if you need additional information. Thank you.
Thank you, Gustavo. At this point, we have covered both LightWave Server and LightWave Client. We have proven that where or when REST is available, we offer a fast path to deployment with easy integration for customers, suppliers, and mobile workers. From all of us at NuWave Technologies and HPE, we thank you for attending today's session on the LightWave products and the secure best practices that one must consider when implementing REST services. For any additional information, please visit nuwavetech.com, or for live product demos, please visit our YouTube channel. Thank you, and for any additional questions, please email us at info@nuwavetech.com.